stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you is going to completely flip everything you think you know about making someone want you. 3 days ago, I watched my friend get a text from someone who hadn't spoken to her in 2 months. She didn't chase, didn't beg, didn't even like their Instagram posts. She did something so simple that when I tell you what it is, you're going to think I'm crazy. But here's the thing. She's not the only one. I've seen this work for person after person, and every single time, people tell me the same thing. I can't believe something so simple actually worked. By the time you finish watching this video, you're going to know exactly what she did, why it works, and how you can start doing it today. But I'm warning you, once you see how this really works, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. And if you click away now, you're going to spend the next week wondering, what if, while that person you're thinking about right now keeps living their life without giving you a second thought. Story-driven body, 30 seconds to 8 minutes. Let me tell you about my friend Jessica. 3 months ago, she was that person who would screenshot every Instagram story, analyze every text message, and ask her friends, "What do you think this means? Sound familiar?" I'm talking about the kind of person who would sit there for 20 minutes crafting the perfect response to a simple "hey" text. She'd type something, delete it, type something else, delete that too. She'd call her sister, read the message out loud, and ask, "What vibe do you think he's giving off?" Her sister would be like, "Jessica, it's literally just the word hey." But Jessica would find hidden meanings in everything. She was the friend who would post a story and then immediately check to see if he viewed it. When he didn't view it within the first hour, she'd delete it and post something else, thinking maybe the first one wasn't interesting enough. She'd spend her whole day waiting for those little notifications, and when they didn't come, she'd feel like her entire world was crashing down. She was doing what we all do, texting first, double texting when they didn't respond, always being the one to make plans, and the more she tried, the more distant this guy became. She was driving herself crazy. And I mean crazy. She'd wake up in the morning and the first thing she'd do, before even getting out of bed, was check her phone to see if he'd texted her overnight. When there was nothing there, her whole mood would shift. She'd go from excited about the day to feeling like something was missing, like she wasn't enough. She'd find herself making excuses to text him. "Oh, I saw this meme that reminded me of you." "Hey, how was your meeting today? Did you see that thing on the news?" Anything to keep the conversation going, anything to stay on his mind. But every text felt like she was throwing a ball at a wall and it was just bouncing back to her. The worst part? She could feel him pulling away. His responses got shorter. He'd take hours to reply when he used to text back right away. He stopped asking questions. He stopped using exclamation points. All those little signs that we pick up on when someone's interest is fading, and the more she noticed them, the harder she tried to bring back the spark. Then one day she called me crying. She said, "I feel like I'm invisible to him, like I don't even matter." And that's when I told her something that changed everything. She was sobbing on the phone, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. She said, "I don't understand what I did wrong. I've been nothing but nice to him. I've been supportive. I've been available whenever he needed me. I've been everything I thought he wanted." And that's when it hit me. She was trying so hard to be what she thought he wanted that she forgot to be herself. I could hear her pacing around her apartment, probably looking at herself in the mirror and wondering what was wrong with her. She said, "Maybe I'm just not pretty enough, or interesting enough, or fun enough." And my heart broke for her because I've been there. We've all been there. I said, "Jess, you're trying so hard to get his attention that you forgot to pay attention to yourself." And she looked at me like I was speaking a different language. There was this long silence on the phone, and then she said, "What do you mean?" And I realized that she had become so focused on this one person's opinion of her that she had completely lost touch with her own opinion of herself. She had handed over all her power to someone who wasn't even treating her well. I told her, "When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy? When was the last time you made a decision without wondering what he would think about it?" And she couldn't answer me. She literally couldn't remember the last time she had lived for herself instead of living for his approval. See, here's what nobody tells you. When you're constantly available, constantly reaching out, constantly trying to prove your worth, you're actually telling the other person that you don't think you're worth much. It's like you're walking around with a sign that says, "Please validate me, I can't validate myself." And people can sense that energy from a mile away. They might not be able to put their finger on what it is, but they feel this heaviness, this neediness, this desperation that actually pushes them away instead of drawing them closer. Think about your own life. Have you ever had someone who was always available to you? Someone who dropped everything whenever you called, who agreed with everything you said, who never had their own plans because they were always waiting for you to make plans? How did that make you feel about them? Did it make you respect them more, or did it actually make you take them for granted? Think about it like this. Have you ever been to a restaurant where they're desperately trying to get you to come in? Guys standing outside with a menu, practically begging you to eat there. How does that make you feel about the food? Probably not great, right? You start thinking, if the food was actually good, they wouldn't need to beg people to try it. You start wondering what's wrong with the place, why they're so desperate for customers. Even if the food might actually be amazing, that desperate energy makes you question the quality. And then there's the psychological part of it. When someone's begging for your attention, your brain automatically categorizes them as less valuable. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's how human psychology works. We want what we can't have, and we take for granted what's always available to us. Now think about that restaurant with a line around the block. No one's begging you to eat there. In fact, you might have to wait. Which one do you want to try more? That restaurant with the line. You're thinking, this place must be incredible if all these people are willing to wait. You're curious. You're intrigued. You want to know what all the fuss is about. That's the power of scarcity, and it works in relationships too. When someone isn't desperately trying to get your attention, when they have their own life and their own interests and their own plans, suddenly they become more interesting. You start wondering what they're up to, who they're with, what's keeping them so busy that they can't text you back immediately. So here's what Jessica did, and what you're going to do if you're smart. She stopped chasing completely, not just texting less, I mean completely stopped. And this was hard for her. The first day, she picked up her phone probably 50 times, started typing a message, and then put it back down. She had to literally leave her phone in another room because the urge to text him was so strong. She told me later that it felt like she was going through withdrawal from a drug. But she stuck with it. Day after day, she resisted the urge to reach out. She stopped checking his social media. And this was huge for her because she used to check his Instagram stories multiple times a day, looking for clues about what he was doing and who he was with. She unfollowed him on everything, not out of spite, but because she needed to break the addiction. She needed to stop getting those little hits of dopamine every time she saw his face or read his posts. She needed to create space for herself to exist without him being the center of her universe. But here's the part that nobody talks about. It's not just about playing hard to get. It's about actually becoming someone who doesn't need anyone else to feel complete. See, when you're chasing someone, you're operating from a place of lack. You're thinking, I need this person to be happy. I need this person to validate me. I need this person to make me feel worthy. But when you stop chasing and start focusing on yourself, you're operating from a place of abundance. You're saying, I'm complete with or without this person. I'm happy with or without this person. I'm worthy with or without this person. And that shift in energy is something people can feel, even if they can't explain it. The daily practice. Every morning, Jessica started doing something that felt weird at first, but changed everything. She would look at herself in the mirror and say, I'm the kind of person people miss when I'm not around. She told me it felt fake at first. She'd look at herself and think, this is stupid, I don't believe this. But I told her to do it anyway, even if she didn't believe it yet. Because sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. And sometimes you have to practice a new way of thinking before your brain actually starts to believe it. After about a week, something started to shift. She started standing a little taller. She started smiling more. She started making plans with other friends instead of keeping her schedule open in case he wanted to hang out. She started remembering who she was before she met him. And then, whenever this guy popped into her head, which happened a lot at first, instead of grabbing her phone, she would close her eyes and send him a thought. Not, please, text me, or, I miss you. She would think, you're thinking about me right now. I know this sounds crazy, but stay with me. Instead of sending desperate energy his way, instead of mentally begging for his attention, she was sending confident energy. She was imagining him wondering about her, missing her, thinking about the good times they had together. She would picture him going about his day and suddenly having a thought about her pop into his head. She would imagine him smiling when he thought about her, or feeling a little pang of, I wonder how she's doing. Instead of being in his energy trying to get something from him, she was putting herself in a position of power. I know that sounds crazy. I know you're probably thinking, that's not real. That doesn't work. But stick with me because what happened next is going to blow your mind. Jessica was skeptical too. She said, this feels like I'm just making stuff up in my head. And I told her, maybe you are. But what you were doing before wasn't working, so what do you have to lose? Plus, whether or not the mental messages actually reach the other person, they're definitely changing how you feel about yourself and the situation. When you're sending confident, powerful thoughts instead of desperate, needy thoughts, you're rewiring your own brain. You're practicing feeling worthy instead of practicing feeling rejected. And that change in your internal state affects everything about how you show up in the world. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, she almost cracked and texted him. But day 4, he posted something on his story, the first time in weeks. Day 6, he liked one of her old photos. Day 8, he texted her. But here's what was really happening during those 8 days. Jessica was changing. She wasn't sitting around waiting for him to text her anymore. She was going to the gym, hanging out with friends, reading books, taking that art class she'd been talking about for months. She was becoming interesting again, even to herself. By day 4, when he posted that story, she didn't even see it right away because she wasn't constantly checking his profile anymore. When she finally saw it hours later, instead of analyzing every detail of the post, she just thought, oh, that's nice, and went back to what she was doing. By day 6, when he liked her old photo, she noticed it, but it didn't send her into a spiral of, what does this mean? She just felt a quiet confidence, like, of course he's thinking about me. By day 8, when that text finally came, she was so genuinely busy living her life that she didn't even respond right away. And you know what he said? "Hey, I've been thinking about you. How are you?" Not some random excuse. Not some late-night woy-dee text. He literally said he'd been thinking about her. When Jessica showed me the text, I could see how different she was. 3 months earlier, a text like that would have sent her into overdrive. She would have analyzed every word, called all her friends, spent an hour crafting the perfect response. But now, she just smiled and said, "I'll text him back later. I'm having dinner with my sister tonight." And that's when I knew the real magic had happened. It wasn't just that he texted her, it was that she didn't need him to text her anymore. She had found her power again, and ironically, that's exactly what made him want to chase her. But here's what really happened. Jessica didn't just get a text. She got her power back. She stopped being desperate, stopped being needy, and started being the kind of person others naturally want to be around. See, when you're constantly wondering where someone is, what they're doing, who they're with, you're operating from a place of scarcity. You're telling the universe, and more importantly, you're telling yourself, that you're not enough on your own. Jessica broke that cycle. She stopped checking his last scene on WhatsApp. She stopped analyzing every single word in his messages. She stopped making herself smaller, hoping he'd notice her more. And that shift, that internal transformation, that's what changed everything. Now, most people hear this, and they try it for like 24 hours. They send one mental message, don't get an immediate response, and give up. Don't be that person. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Someone watches a video like this, gets all motivated, tries the technique for exactly 1 day, and when their phone doesn't blow up with messages, they go right back to their old patterns. They start double texting again. They start checking social media stories again. They convince themselves it doesn't work because they didn't see instant results. But that's like going to the gym once and expecting to see abs the next morning. This is about rewiring patterns that have been years in the making. The real secret isn't the mental messages. It's not the mirror work. It's genuinely becoming someone who's happy with or without that person in your life. This is the part that separates the people who get results from the people who stay stuck. When you can honestly say, "I want you in my life, but I don't need you in my life," that's when everything changes. Because neediness repels, but choice attracts. When someone feels like they're your only option, they run. When they feel like they're your preferred choice among many possibilities, they stay. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything about how you show up in the world. I had another friend try this with someone who ghosted her after 3 dates. She focused on herself, sent those mental messages, and stopped checking his social media. 2 weeks later, he asked her out again. But here's what's interesting. By the time he reached out, she wasn't even sure she wanted to see him anymore. That's the real magic. She had become so focused on her own life, so centered in her own worth, that his attention wasn't the prize anymore. Her peace was the prize. And when you make your peace the priority, people naturally want to be part of that energy. And this keeps happening because when you stop chasing, you stop giving off that desperate energy. People can feel it, even if they don't realize it. They feel the difference between someone who needs them and someone who wants them. There's an energetic signature to desperation, and there's an energetic signature to confidence. One pushes people away, the other draws them in. When you're chasing someone, you're essentially telling them that they're more important than you are. And nobody wants to be with someone who thinks they're less valuable. But here's the part that's going to determine whether this works for you or not. You have to mean it. You have to genuinely get to a place where you're okay if they don't come back, because that's when they always do. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about actually building a life so fulfilling that their presence is a bonus, not a necessity. Look, I could have kept this to myself. I could have let you keep making the same mistakes that keep pushing people away. But I'm sharing this because I wish someone had told me this years ago. I wasted months, sometimes years, in situations where I was giving my power away to people who weren't even thinking about me. I was making myself sick with worry about people who were out living their best lives while I was stuck analyzing their every move. I want to know, are you dealing with this right now? Is there someone you've been chasing who's been pulling away? Drop a comment and let me know, because I respond to every single one, and honestly, sometimes just typing it out helps you see the situation more clearly. There's something powerful about putting your situation into words. It forces you to see patterns you might have been blind to. And I promise you, whatever you're going through, you're not alone in this. And if this opened your eyes to something you didn't see before, hit that subscribe button right now. Because I'm going to keep making videos that show you the psychology behind why people do what they do. And trust me, once you understand this stuff, you'll never feel powerless in a relationship again. I'm talking about the deep psychological principles that govern human attraction and connection. The stuff they don't teach you in school, but that determines the quality of every relationship in your life. Also, I'm starting something special for people who want to dive deeper into this. It's a membership where we talk about the real psychology of attraction, not the surface-level stuff everyone else talks about, but the deep patterns that actually control how people feel about you. We're going to break down real situations, analyze the psychology behind common relationship patterns, and give you tools that work in the real world, not just in theory. I'm only taking a limited number of people because I want to be able to personally respond to everyone. If you're serious about understanding this stuff and never feeling desperate or confused in relationships again, check the link in the description. But don't wait on this, because once we hit capacity, we hit capacity. I'm not going to compromise the quality of what we're building just to let more people in. Remember, you're not trying to trick anyone or manipulate anyone. You're just finally becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need anyone else's validation to feel complete. And that version of you, that's the version people can't stop thinking about. That's the version that attracts genuine love, not just attention. That's the version that builds relationships that actually last. I'll see you in the next video. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. We're going to dive even deeper into the psychology of attraction, and I'm going to show you exactly how to become irresistible without changing anything about how you look or what you say. It's all about energy, and I can't wait to share it with you.